Hopefully it'll work. Okay, so anyone has any questions, any part of this is all open forum. Please feel free to just go through the basic halachas and the basic concepts behind them. And the truth is that there really aren't that many halachas of Chanukah beyond the lighting of the candles, which we'll spend most of the time talking about, because that's the main part of it. There really aren't that many different halachas, a lot of different customs and stuff. We'll try to go through everything, hopefully in the next 45 minutes to an hour. So one element of halacha beyond the candles is the additional prayers we add in. So we add in, just see the two pictures here we have on the, I'm assuming your screen is the same as mine. On the right side is the sitter, and on the left side is a bencher, right? On the right side, we have here in the middle of Shemona Esrei, we have the additional prayer. You see it here in this box over here of Al Hanisim, that box over there. So that is additional prayer we add on. If you turn to the next page, I didn't put it all on the slides, but that's a special prayer you'll add there. We add that prayer in on Purim and on Chanukah, different paragraphs for each. So that's additionally, we add this into both the Shemona Esrei, the silent prayer when we're davening, as well as in benching after the second paragraph here. No, Hashem Elokeinu, right? This is the second paragraph here. We also add in Al Hanisim. So anytime we bench over all 8 days on Shabbos or any other time, we're going to always add in Al Hanisim. Additionally, what's up? How are you doing, Sasha? Good to see you. Additionally to Al Hanisim, we also add in every single day, we add into the Shachris service the Hallel prayer. Hallel is in the back of the sitter also. Didn't put a picture of it. But again, one of the basic concepts of Chanukah, if you look in the story, is really Hallel Lahodos Lashem, which means to praise and give thanks to Hashem. That's really the underpinnings of the whole holiday, is it's a time of thanksgiving, I guess, a recognition of everything that Hashem does for us, and thanking Him for that. So because of that, we add in Al Hanisim, thanking Hashem for the miracles He's done, and Hallel, just a general praise and thanks of Hashem. Beyond that, there really isn't that much more halacha other than the candle lighting. We'll get to the minhagim customs at the end, but really in halacha itself, there's not so much more. So let's go to the candles and the menorahs. So let's talk first about the structure of the menorah itself. So you can really make a menorah out of anything. You can make a very cool beer menorah here, as long as you've got 8 things, 8 in a row, and then a taller one at a different height next to it. Any menorah is defined by having, and you don't even really need 8 till the 8th day. You put 1 or 2 of them next to each other. As long as all the candles are on the same height, like we'll see in a second, and your shamash is taller, then you're good to go. Another cool menorah I found, this is actually the most expensive menorah in the world. You ready for this one? All right, I can't get anyone's reactions on this, but I'm sure you're all laughing. Everyone sounds off. But yeah, this is what valued at. How much did that sell for? That banana painting? So this is like millions over here, millions and millions. But technically this would be fine also. I don't even know how those are actually on it, but those would be fine also. However, there's a concept in general in Judaism by Chanukah as well called Zek Keli V'Anvehu, which is whenever we do any mitzvahs, there's always a concept of beautifying the mitzvahs, making them as like nice, showing Hashem how much we care about them and how much we love them. So we want to enhance it. So there's a concept that if we're able to, even though you could technically buy, a $5, $10 menorah at Tam Thum or at Tam Thum or at Kosher Palette, but there's a concept that if you're able to afford it, it's a nice enhancement of the mitzvah to buy a silver one or buy something a little bit nicer, like by all mitzvahs. So if you could do it, great. Again, the main thing is that you have the 8, you can't really see it so well here, but you have the 8 candles all in a row on one line. And then you have the shamish, which is separate. It's off to the side. It's not on the same line as the rest of them. And the basic concept, just to explain the background, why do we have a shamish? We know there's 8 nights of Chanukah. So we light one candle, or we add 1 candle each night, 1 on the first night, 2 on the second night, going on till 8. Why do we have the shamish? So there's really 2 reasons explain why we have a shamish. The first reason is, which wouldn't apply to an oil menorah, is because you're not supposed to use the candles which are part of the mitzvah to light the other candles. Like if you would take the candle that you're going to use on the day 1 candle and use that to light the day 2 candle, that's considered inappropriate because you're using the mitzvah for a different purpose than itself. You're using it to light something else. So because of that, we take a shamish and we use a random candle, a candle that's not really part of the mitzvah, and we use that to light the other candles. Now, obviously, on an oil menorah, you're not using the shamish to light the other candles. So why do we have a shamish even by an oil menorah? So the second reason why we have a shamish is because there's another thing that you're not supposed to benefit in any practical way from the light of the menorah or from the mitzvah. You're supposed to look at it, you're supposed to think about what it represents, you're supposed to understand it. But let's say, for example, the example the Gemara gives, you want to count your money, or you want to read a book or something like that, and it's in a dark room, you really shouldn't use the light from the candles to see around your room and to read, because those are consecrated for the mitzvah. So we light a shamish. So since the shamish is providing light and it's not part of the mitzvah, that way in case we need light in the room, since there's already light from the shamish, that will be enough that even the extra light doesn't bother us so much. So those are really the two purposes of why we have a shamish. And that's why, since the shamish is not part of the mitzvah, it's just there for one of these two separate reasons, we keep it to the side or at a different height in a way that's clearly recognizable that it's not part of the actual 8 branches of the menorah. Now, one of the classic things we find a lot is menorahs that don't have them on the same height. For example, this type of menorah, although these menorahs have 8 branches or 8 days they're representing, the problem with these menorahs is that the Gemara says the reason why we have 8 is to make it easily recognizable what day of Hanukkah it is. So when I look outside, when I'm standing outside your window and I see your menorah and I see there's a shamish to the side and then there's 3 candles lit, I know clearly that it's the 3rd day of Hanukkah. But when you have them on different heights, it's sometimes harder to figure out whether or not, or what day it is, or if it's really part of even the same structure. Maybe it's 2 menorahs, it's 1 menorah. And therefore the rabbi said you should have your menorahs, like we said before, your menorah should really be on one straight line. So that's, any questions on that? Okay, sorry, I thought someone just piped up. Everyone should feel free to pipe up whenever you want. So that is the story with the structure of the menorah. But again, any menorah is fine. The main thing is really just that it's in a straight line with the shamish separate. We'll talk about lighting shortly. In terms of candles and oil, again, technically anything that is flammable, that will burn, that will light is fine. It doesn't have to be anything specific. You could use oil. You want to use your classic Chanukah candles. Whichever one you want to use is completely fine. The only thing brought down in halacha is there's an added special, called again an enhancement, which would be to use olive oil. Since we all know that the oil used in the temple, that the actual miracle of Chanukah, the 8-day miracle where the oil lasted for 8 days, happened with olive oil. So it's considered an enhancement of the mitzvah. Again, it's an extra special thing to use specifically olive oil, which is like a higher level commemoration of the oil used in the temple. So if you're able to get olive oil, that's the best. It doesn't have to be. They have olive oil that's like cheap olive oil that you can use. That's not even meant for eating. It's just meant for burning or for lighting. I don't know if they make that in America, if that's like a special Jewish product that they like find to just sell for Hanukkah. But you could use that. That's fine. Ideally, the best type of olive oil is to use extra virgin olive oil. Is considered a hitter, an enhancement again, because the jug that they found was the jug of the Talmud says that when they couldn't find any oil to light the menorah, they found this one jug. And the Talmud says that one jug was a jug that had the seal of the high priest on it, because the high priest himself brought certain sacrifices, and he was careful, even though he didn't have to be, he was careful to only bring the highest level oil possible. So he only used extra virgin, like the first drips of olive oil out of each olive, a very high quality oil. So to commemorate it on an even higher level, people try to use, the best would be, the extra virgin olive oil that's the highest level. But again, anything's really fine as long as it's going to burn, and it'll burn nicely, and there's no concern that it's going to like go out because it's it doesn't burn well. So that's really the main thing. Now, whatever you're lighting, there's it has to be let's discuss when we light, and then let's discuss how long it has to last. So you're supposed to light during the nighttime, right? When is the nighttime? It's debate, like everything in Judaism. I don't know, when's the daytime, when's the nighttime? You can always argue. Sasha says 3 stars. So it's roughly around 20 minutes after sunset. So like the earliest time you could light is around 5:40, 5:45 is the earliest time you can light. If you're not back from work yet and you're getting back later, that's fine. You can light later than that time. The earliest time you can light is 5:45. If you're gonna light later, part of the concept of lighting the menorah is that people should see it. So somebody else in your house should be around when you're lighting the menorah. So let's say you get back from work like super late and you're gonna not be able to light until 1 o'clock in the morning and your spouse is already sleeping. So no one's gonna be around to see it. Ideally, what should happen in that case is the other spouse should light earlier at a time when people are walking around outside and other people can see it, and you just wouldn't light. Or as long as your spouse is up, even if it's late, even if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, someone else is around, then you can light anytime at night after 5:45. Anytime after that, you can light candles, and your candles have to last for 30 minutes. So now the candles have to last for 30 minutes after it's called after nighttime. So on a regular night, when we're lighting at nighttime, so as long as it lasts 30 minutes, you're good to go. But the one problem there, the one thing you got to figure out is, let's say on Friday. So Friday night, this year it's going to be the second night of Hanukkah. So you have to light candles before Shabbos starts, because you can't light on Shabbos, can't kindle a flame on Shabbos. So you got to light before Shabbos starts. Now we know if we're saying that nightfall is approximately 20 minutes after sunset, Shabbos starts at sunset, and generally you want to light Shabbos candles before that also. Let's say ideally you're lighting Shabbos candles 18 minutes before that. So you're already starting your Hanukkah menorah basically 40 minutes before your half an hour starts. So when you're lighting on Friday, you should make sure that you put in either longer lasting candles that will last a half an hour past, let's say that'll last till around 6:15 from whatever time you're lighting them at. So just something to keep in mind, even if you use regular Hanukkah candles, on Friday, ideally you should either, if you're using oil, just put in enough oil to last, or if you're using the candles, you should try to use a tea light or Shabbos candles or something that'll last a little longer. Sometimes they make longer lasting Hanukkah lights. So ideally you should use one of those type of lights in order that since you're lighting it early, it can last until the time it needs to get to on Shabbos. Okay, was that clear? Did that make sense? Any questions? Okay, awesome. So that's so again.
Sorry.
Just to be clear. Oh, Sarah also had something. Go ahead, Sarah.
Just quickly, it's 5:45 or 6:45?
So
non-Friday
candles is 5:45, but then it has to last a half an hour after that. So
5:45 non-Shabbos night,
and then it should go until 6:15. So on Shabbos, when candle lighting for Shabbos is around 5:01, 5:02. So if you're going to light menorah before then, you're talking about lighting the menorah around, let's say 10 to 5, and then it have to last till 6:15. So that's kind of the calculation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Also, like if your kids are lighting, they're not really obligated in the mitzvah. You don't have to be as careful about this. But for sure, for the main person, the person who's lighting it, that's an adult, that's lighting it for the actual mitzvah, they should at least they should be able to make the bracha. You really have to make sure it lasts long enough.
Okay, thank you.
Lindsay, did that answer your question also, or were you going to ask something else?
Yeah, you answered it. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, okay, so that's really it. Again, we have our menorah, we have anything inside of it, and it has to last us for a half an hour afterwards. Just an interesting halacha. If your candle actually goes out for whatever reason, you lit your candles, and it's a candle that should last, let's say a regular Thursday night, first night of Hanukkah, and it'll last a half an hour. There's no issues. It should last a half an hour. For some reason, whatever, your kid ran past it and blew it out. So that you don't actually have to relight it. As long as when you lit it, it was lit in a way that it should last a half an hour. Even if it doesn't actually last that half an hour, it's okay. You don't have to relight it. If you want to relight it, you could. It's a nice thing because, again, part of it is people should see it. So if everyone sees it, that's great. But technically, you fulfilled the mitzvah once you lit it initially and it was lit with enough fuel to last a half an hour into nighttime, then you fulfilled your mitzvah. Okay, great. And next one. So who likes the candles? So in general, main Ashkenazi custom, Sasha and Mark, I think we were here a couple years back. We learned through the Gemara together. debate between the Ashkenazim and the Sephardim about how many people light in each house. The basic custom amongst the Ashkenazim is that everyone in the house lights. However many people live in the house, each person lights their own menorah, with the exception being that most women, since a husband and wife are considered one unit, often just the husband will light, and that will be for him and his wife. But in terms of his kids or anyone else in your house, everyone else should light their own menorah. Again, it's custom. Some people do have the custom that I think in the Honigsveld house, I think the husband and wife both light candles also. It's not unheard of, but I would definitely say the classic custom is that the husband lights for the wife. So again, if you're a guest in someone's house, let's say you're traveling and you're in someone else's house, ideally you should light your own menorah in that person's house as well. If you're not going to be able to, then you should give him $1, give him a little bit to quote unquote to purchase, and you should acquire a share in his oil or in his candle. That way when he's lighting it, he's really lighting his candle and your candle if you can't light your own. That's like the best alternative. Also, you should light it in the place that you live. So let's say, for example, you're going out for dinner Friday night, if anyone does that anymore. I don't know if this is the most practical for 2020, but if you're going out for dinner Friday night, so even though you are going to be in someone else's house for the meal, your Hanukkah candles the Gemara says it's a mitzvah of ner ishu veso. It's a mitzvah of a person in their house. So it's a mitzvah on the house that you live in, and therefore you should light your Hanukkah candles in the house that you live in, not the house that you're eating in. Okay, so where should we light our menorahs? So if you look in the Gemara, and if you've ever been in Israel for Hanukkah, which is a beautiful time to be in Israel, really amazing. In Israel, a lot of people light outside. You can't really see from this picture. I was trying to find a good picture. This is the outside. That's the brick wall or the cement wall, the outside of the house there. And this is in a kind of a glass box that has some air holes in it. And that's what they do in Israel. Almost tons of people light like this and light in a little box right outside of the entrance to their house. And that's really what the Gemara says is the ideal way to light. Nowadays in America, or in exile for many, many, many years now, because it wasn't always safe to light outside your house, people started lighting in their house. But even when you're lighting in your house, ideally you should light in a way that it's visible to the outside. So as opposed to lighting, let's say on your dining room table or something like that, you should put it by a window. The most ideal place to light is by a window. And if you have multiple windows or entrances that face outside, you should put it by whichever one it gets the most traffic, wherever the most people will see it. Let's say you have one facing your backyard, one facing your front yard, and the front yard one, anyone walking by the sidewalk or walking outside will see it. So it's ideal to place it on that one, where more people will see it than the other one. Again, if you didn't and you lit it on your dining room table, as long as there's someone else in your house, anyone else that saw it, you did the mitzvah. But ideally, the best way to do it is a way that gets the most publicity out of it. Again, the basic concept of lighting the Chanukah candles is called Persume Nisa. It's publicizing the miracle that Hashem did for us. So we want people to see it, and that's why we try to put it in the most public place that we can put it. So ideally, we're not going to do it like they do in Israel. I don't think anyone in America really does like this. But even if you are going to light inside your house, it should be in a place that you can that it's most publicly viewed as possible. As many public viewers as possible. Okay, any questions? Feel free to jump in. Now we'll just keep going. Okay, so how do we prepare the menorah, and then how do we light the menorah? So there's actually very interesting, but there's actually a different way that you get the menorah set up and a way that you light it. So let's get our menorah here. Here's our menorah. So before we start, you can just ignore the shamash. Again, the shamash is really not part of our menorah lighting here. So even before you start, you get it set up, whatever, you can light your shamash first. Now, when you're preparing your menorah, you should always make day one should be on the far right. So this is your day one candle over here, right? Now, when you're setting up your menorah, you always start with the first night. So let's say the example we'll use today right now is, let's say it's night 3 tonight. So when I'm setting up my menorah in advance, I first get day 1 ready, then I'll get day 2 ready, and then I'll get day 3 ready. That's how you set it up. You always start on day 1, and then day 4 again. I'll do it again on day 4, right? I'll start on 1, 2, 3, and then I'll add on 4. Whenever you're preparing your menorah, you're always going to go from right to left, from the oldest, the first candle, to the most recent candle. However, when you light the menorah, so there are blessings that we'll say. I'll post a little infographic of the blessings afterwards on the in the YJC chat. But first, you hold the shamish, or whatever candle you're using to light the menorah, and then you first light the third day candle, then you light the second day candle, and then you light the first day candle. So you light it in the opposite order than you prepare it. And let's say it's day 8 right now. So again, you'll get them ready first, day 1, from the right all the way to the left of day 8. Then when you're lighting it, you'll start from the newest day, you light from the newest day, and you'll start from 8 until you continue down to 1. So that's the order in how we set up our menorah and how we light our menorah. Ideal way to do it.
Okay, I have a quick question. Okay, so I'm standing in front of my menorah and I'm lighting it, and I'm standing in front of a window lighting it. So who's ever looking in to the window is actually seeing it backwards. Is that a thing? Like, should you turn it around so that like it's facing out? Does that matter? Like who?
No, you're right and you're left. It doesn't matter how they're seeing it. The preparation is based on the person lighting. So whichever side, wherever you're lighting from, your right is where you start preparing from, and your left is where you start lighting from.
So it doesn't matter like who's viewing it from, like what side you're seeing it.
Right. Viewing it, the only thing with viewing it is that they should just be able to clearly recognize how many candles are lit as part of that night. That's all that makes a difference to them, really, is just that that they can clearly see, like in this menorah is a good example. The shamash is higher up and you can clearly see this, it's the third night of Hanukkah. The setup and the lighting is only relevant to the person lighting it themselves, these laws.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so let's keep going on. So after you light the Chanukah candles, it's a good opportunity. You could just light them quickly, be done in 2 minutes, and then move on with your life. Or you could spend some time, hang out with your family, read a book, share Dvar Torah. Another great thing to do is to Okay, you guys are able to hear that, right? Okay, perfect. So it's another great thing. Dance, enjoy, try to make it, it's the mitzvah is technically the candle lighting, but it's a beautiful moment afterwards. If you sit there, you watch the candles, you think about all the miracles that Hashem does for us, you think about how many blessings we have in our life, how much we have to be thankful to Hashem about, how fortunate we are. Even with all the craziness going on in the world, everyone here, we all have family around, we all have community around, we all have houses we live in, we have food. There's endless amount of things that we can be thankful for. And when you sit there looking at the candle, remembering, God's providence and God taking care of all of us, it's a great meditative opportunity to really just reflect and think and appreciate and feel the joy, happiness in that which Hashem does for us. So that's really an opportunity to take advantage of that. Okay, moving on. The end of this, really, the last couple customs here is, these are also just customs now, is there's a famous custom to eat lots of oily foods. We know that the mitzvah in the temple, the miracle in the temple happened with oil. And as Jews, we always like to eat things and we always like to convert things into meals. Interestingly, on Chanukah, there is no mitzvah to have a meal. By most holidays, there's always a mitzvah to have a meal. On Shabbos, we have meals. On Yontif, Pesach, we have meals. We have seders. On Purim, we have a festive meal. On Chanukah, there's no formal obligation to have a meal. However, there is a custom to eat fried food because of the miracle of the oil. There's also a custom, I forgot to put a picture of this on. There's actually a custom to eat dairy products on Chanukah also, because there's a story about in the ancient Greek times, there's a righteous Jewish woman named Yehudis, who basically, the Greeks had this rule that before any Jews got married to each other, the Greek general would sleep with the wife. And obviously this was to defile her and to try to ruin the purity of the Jewish home. And there was a woman named Yehudis who, before she got married, she brought a lot of dairy in with her. She gave this general a big meal that he should eat, and the milk got him very, very tired. Then she gave him some wine because he was thirsty, and she basically knocked him out. He passed out, and then she killed him when he was sleeping. And then she took his head back with her, and she brought his head back to the Jewish part of town, and without any of the Greeks realizing. And then the next day, the Greeks realized that their general was killed, and they all ended up running and fleeing. And she really saved the Jewish nation by doing that. So because of that, we commemorate the great miracle on the righteous woman Yehudis by eating dairy products, as well as a custom on Chanukah. The next custom we have.
Did she embalm it and put it up in the living room?
Say again?
Did she put it up in her living room like a nice good longhorn?
It has some good taxidermy. I don't know. If she lived in Texas, she probably would have. I don't know if I don't remember ever seeing anything on that, but you got to figure out what that is now. So the next custom, we all know, famous custom, is the concept of the dreidel. Dreidel is a game we play on Hanukkah. Again, there's no mitzvah to play dreidel. It's actually a very interesting thing. In general, in Judaism, we frown upon gambling. Playing games and throwing money around is generally not considered. It's called not osip yeshiva shalom. It's not something that builds up the world. It's not a productive thing to do. So the rabbis don't look at it so positively. However, it's brought down. Everyone agrees that there's a special concept of playing the dreidel on Hanukkah. So one concept of the dreidel on Hanukkah, the most basic reason is because in the times of the Greeks, they outlawed and forbade a lot of the basic Jewish things. They didn't allow Jews to do Shabbos. They didn't allow the women to go to the mikvah. One of the things they didn't allow is they didn't allow Torah study. So what the Jews used to do is they had little tops, and they would go to the caves. They would go to the outskirts of town, and they would study Torah. And whenever anyone would come, any Greek generals or officers or people would come find them, they would quickly close their books, and they would start playing with their dreidels. They would start playing with their tops, like as if they're just playing a game and gambling and having a good time. And then because of that, that really allowed them to continue studying Torah. So because of that, that became the custom to play dreidel on Chanukah. It's interesting that on Chanukah we have a dreidel which we spin, and on Purim, the other rabbinic holiday, we have a grogger that we also spin. Some people get shaking ones, but the classic grogger is the shaking one. And some of the commentaries point out that the way you spin a dreidel is from the top of the dreidel, right? You spin it from the top. But the way you shake a grogger is from the bottom. You swing it around, holding it from underneath. So a lot of them point out that the grogger, the miracle of Purim, all happened seemingly in the natural world. It was Mordechai and it was Esther. Everything, there's no miraculous occurrence. So you hold it from the bottom, representing us, representing the people in the world. The dreidel, which again is reminding us of Hashem saving us in the war, as well as the oil in the temple. So we spin it from above. Again, the concept being that the Hanukkah miracles all came directly from Hashem. Another interesting thing is the letters on the dreidel. So each side of the dreidel has a different letter on it, Nun, Gimel, He, Shin. And the explicit reason for this is that stands for Nes Gadol Haya Sham. A great miracle happened there, referring to the miracle that happened in Israel. But there's a lot of other deep reasons brought down that these letters represent, and that this concept exists. Actually, the first place we find in the Torah this conjugation of letters, Nun, Gimel, Shin, and He, is actually in the Torah portion of next week's Torah portion, or two weeks in the Shabbos, the Torah portion, where Jacob sends Judah down after Joseph reveals himself. Jacob sends Judah down to Egypt, and it says he sends him Goshna, which means in Hebrew to the land of Goshen. The Jewish people, Jacob and his family, when they went down to Egypt, settled in a city called Goshen. So the Torah says that he sent Judah ahead of the rest of the family, Goshna, which is the same letters, Gimel, Shin, Nun, and He. And the commentaries explain that Rashi says on that verse, why did he send Judah ahead? He says he sent him ahead to establish a base medrash there, to establish a place of Torah study. Because before the Jews moved to the town, they needed to already have an established place of Torah study Torah study always being that thing which we hold on to throughout all the generations of persecution and everything. We always stood strong and studied Torah and stood strong to the Torah, and that really kept us with the resilience and the strength to keep moving forward. So the letters of the dreidel themselves also represent this concept of establishing Torah study, which is what the dreidel has allowed us to do. And the gematria, the numerical value of the letters Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin is the same numerical value as the word Mashiach, right? The word Shin is the same. Nun is the same as Mem and Yud, right? And then they're both Mashiach is going to be 358, and the same with Goshna is also 358, and that's the same concept again, which is basically the concept that through holding on to the Torah, despite all the difficulties and all the people that are trying to stop you, that will allow us to go to Mashiach. And the last step of this, then we'll go on to the next custom. Another really cool concept I saw for the first time this year is another thing that the Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin stand for. Is Nun stands for Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the leader that destroyed the first temple. The Hey stands for Haman. Haman, another great enemy of the Jewish people. The Shin stands for Seir, representing, which is another name for Esav or Rome, which destroyed the second temple. And the last letter, Gimel, represents Gog, which is the future war that we have to overcome before times of Mashiach. So again, the dreidel, all the representations I think of the dreidel come back to basically the concept of through Torah study, that allows us to get past all of the potential persecutions that are going to be around us and allow us to get to the point of Mashiach. And that I think is really the basic concept of dreidel. So I don't know if you can really play like a virtual dreidel game, but if we have a way to figure it out, I'm in. Let me know who's organizing. That's dreidel. And then the last thing is also a concept called the Hanukkah geld. These are actually chocolate coins here, but there's a concept of giving money to kids, which also evolved into giving presents to kids. This is a very, very old custom. So it's nothing people mistakenly believe this has anything to do with the Christian holiday around now. This is a custom that dates back far before that existed. And there's different reasons brought down. It's not like explicit anywhere watched down. There's different reasons brought down of why we do it. Most of the basic concept is that one basic concept is to get your kids excited. That's really what the basic concept is. Your kids to be excited to do it. It's another mitzvah. It's another opportunity to get them excited for it. Another beautiful idea I heard is that thank you, Alyssa. Another beautiful idea I heard about that is that the Talmud says that back to Egypt again, these coming parshas, that Joseph gathered like all the money in the known world and everyone, because it was such a big famine, all that money came down to Egypt. That's how Egypt got so wealthy. And then eventually when the Jews left Egypt 210 years later, they ended up taking the vast amount of that wealth with them when they left. And it eventually went into the temple. And that the Gemara in Pesachim, the Talmud talks about how that wealth, when the temple was destroyed, the non-Jews that ransacked the temple took that wealth with them. We know that Achashverosh in the Purim story, so he had vessels from the holy temple there. That wealth, which really started in Egypt, was always representative in Jewish philosophy of the superpower of the world. And wherever that wealth went is where it goes around. They say now it's in Vatican City. It's still in Rome, in Vatican City. And the La'aseh Lavo, the Talmud tells us that when Mashiach comes, Hashem is going to return the wealth back to the Jewish people again. So again, like we mentioned before, that the dreidel part of the message of Chanukah is reminding us how Hashem protects us, and how even though we're still in exile, Hashem is going to be there and He's going to help get us out of this exile. Giving our kids money is almost symbolic of our belief that we believe Mashiach is going to come any day, and that money is going to return back to us again. All that money that was taken, that represents the beauty of all the gold and beauty of the temple, that's going to come back to us, hopefully, speedily in our days. So that's really another concept of why we give out the Chanukah geld. And that about, I think, wraps up the halachas and the customs of Chanukah. If anybody has anything they want to ask or any other thoughts to share, we can open the floor to any other questions or customs or whatever. Going once. Zum zweiten Mal. I've always wanted to say that. They do in Yiddish auctions. All right. Alrighty, well then if not, everyone, it was awesome. A happy Hanukkah. Everyone stay tuned. We're going to be announcing soon. We're just finalizing it still. YJC, Dad of Richardson, Chanukah, what's activity? Chanukah activities, I think of the right word here. So it's going to be virtual still, obviously. But everyone just keep your eyes on your phones. Not too much, but when we send it to you, keep your eyes on your phone. And I hope we will have that finalized in the next day or two, the date for that and what it's going to be. But okay, have a happy Hanukkah, everyone. And take care. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank